What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my hands-on and first impressions video of the Boost Mobile Celero 5G Plus. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, the Celero 5G Plus was launched by Boost Mobile back in January of 2023. Now, despite being a few months old, I still wanted to cover this phone here in the channel, as this device has been very successful over at Boost Mobile. Now, I'm suspecting this phone has been popular due to the fact that we're getting a lot of value here at a very affordable price. Even at its MSRP of $289, this phone offers a lot of value for the specifications that we're getting. But as of right now, you can actually get this phone for only $99 with a plan. So considering how much value we're getting here with the Celero 5G Plus, it's really no coincidence that this phone has been very successful. Now, before I show you a variety of different things about this phone, let's see what all comes included here in the box. Now, this is a pretty large box, especially compared to the boxes of other phones that I've covered lately. But you can see up front here, we have a photo of the actual phone itself. Then on the back of the box, we have some basic specifications, but I'll be going over all of this throughout this video. But included is a SIM card removal tool. We have a 15-watt USB wall adapter, and we also have a USB-C cable for charging and data transfer. Now, there's a lot of features and specifications with this device that make it very impressive. But I'd say the most impressive thing, at least starting off here, definitely has to be the display. So with the Celero 5G Plus, we're getting a very large 7-inch display. Now, this display features PLS LCD technology, along with a 120Hz refresh rate. So that faster refresh rate makes things run a lot smoother here, and overall makes this phone feel a lot more premium than it even is. In addition to that, the display is 1080p. We're getting a PPI of 384, so everything is very crisp and clear here, and we're getting a 20.5:9 aspect ratio. So a more narrow but taller form factor, which makes this phone ideal especially for social media, because technically you can fit a lot more of a single social media feed in a single frame, or maybe you're reading an article on a website, for example, you'll be able to fit a lot more of that article in a single frame here on the phone's display. So combining that 120Hz refresh rate with 1080p with a large size of 7 inches, that makes this phone ideal for watching video content especially. You're definitely going to be getting a very immersive video viewing experience on this device. The only downside that I've noticed so far with the display here on the phone is that it doesn't necessarily get that bright. Now, I currently have the phone on 100% brightness, but despite that, it does feel a little bit on the dimmer side. And I will be testing this outdoors pretty soon, but I'd imagine that in outdoor conditions, this display will look even dimmer. So I don't necessarily consider the lack of display brightness to be necessarily a deal breaker, especially considering that this is a budget smartphone, but it is a reminder that they did have to cut corners in some ways to be able to get the phone to fit that really affordable price. Now, up top here, we do have a hole punch for the front-facing camera, and that front camera is 16 megapixels. Now, stay tuned for my full review video of the Celero 5G Plus to see a variety of different photo and video samples from all the various cameras here in the phone. One other thing I want to mention too is that the bezels are decently small throughout the device here. However, the bottom bezel is a little bit on the thicker side. But overall, I feel like this phone has an excellent design and is certainly very practical. Now, internally, with the Boost Mobile Celero 5G Plus, we have 128 gigabytes of storage, which is certainly quite a bit, especially for a lower-end smartphone. So I feel like for most people, 128 gigs will be plenty, most likely more than enough. However, this phone also supports microSD card expansion. So if you do want to add in a microSD card to this phone, then you can technically offload photos and videos onto that microSD card to free up some internal space. Another awesome thing too with the Celero 5G Plus is that there is wireless charging here with the phone. Now, typically, wireless charging is something that you only find with more premium flagship smartphones. Even most mid-range devices also don't have wireless charging. So it's really nice to see that we are actually getting that feature here with the Celero 5G Plus, and that's certainly something that is a bit of a surprise to see. Now, some people might not use wireless charging at all, but I know for me at least, I have wireless chargers in multiple rooms throughout my home. So it does make it very convenient to be able to put this phone down on a wireless charger and then just have it charge without having to actually plug a cable into the device itself. Now, another great thing about this device is that it does feature a fingerprint sensor on the power button, and that is very fast and responsive. So I'm glad that works really well. We'll try that one more time here. But you can see it works pretty much flawlessly. Now, unfortunately, there is no face unlock here with the phone, but at least the fingerprint sensor is very fast. Now, taking a look at the camera module on the back of the phone, we are getting a triple camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera to assist with portrait mode. Now this phone does only have portrait mode with the rear camera. There is no front camera portrait mode, which is a bit disappointing. Now here's how things look on the camera app on the device. This is with the main rear camera right now. Then from here, I can switch over to the ultra wide angle camera to fit a lot more content into the frame. You'll also see down here there is live focus, which is what they call portrait mode. And there even is a slider here to adjust the amount of blur that you want. So I do like that ability to make that customization. Then from there, you can go over to the More tab and access some other options. So there's Pro mode, slow motion, hyperlapse. There's 50 megapixel mode. So by default, you don't actually take photos in 50 megapixels with the main camera. However, you can go to this mode to make that happen. Now, the reason why they don't have 50 megapixels as the default is because that'll actually take up a lot more space on your device compared to a lower megapixel count. So if you do want to use that feature, it is there for you, but at the same time, that's not necessarily the default option. So just remember that. We also have Google Lens, which is really useful. Then heading back over to the photo mode, we can flip around to the front facing camera, and there's me right there. So you can take selfies here with the device, of course. Now then from here, if you go over to live focus, you'll see it then flips back to the rear camera, unfortunately. So there is no live focus portrait mode for the front camera. And then video recording with this device maxes out at 1080p for both the front and rear cameras. However, the front camera is limited at 30 FPS, whereas we can get 1080p at 60 FPS with the rear camera. Now with this device, we're getting 6 gigabytes of RAM paired up with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 695 5G processor. Now there's many advantages with that processor. The first one being that it is compatible with 5G connectivity, hence the name of the processor and the phone itself. Now at this point in 2023, you can certainly get by without 5G. However, I feel like if you're gonna go through all the time and effort of buying a brand new smartphone, you may as well get one that does support your carrier's latest and greatest 5G network. And then the other nice thing about the processor that we're getting here with the phone is its capability. So it is a pretty decent processor, certainly will get the job done for most people out there. So if you're someone who does a decent amount of phone calls, text messages, social media, you go online here and there, and you watch video content, then this processor will be plenty fast. Now, if you are a gamer, or someone who does like to play more high performance games, or maybe you're doing more advanced tasks on your smartphone such as video editing, or maybe this is going to be your work phone and you're constantly using it, then I can see where you might want something a bit more capable, but for most people, this phone is plenty powerful. Now I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 6, and here are the scores that I got from that test. So I got a single core score of 898 and a multi-core score of 1673. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of how the Celero 5G Plus compares to your current device. Because who knows, this phone might be slower than your current phone. And if that's the case, then it won't really be much of an upgrade. And then with this device, we're getting a very large 5,000 milliamp hour internal battery, and it does support up to 15 watt fast charging, which I do appreciate. Now the software that we're getting here with the phone is Android 12, and it's basically a stock version of Android. So if you're looking for a version of Android without really any modifications, then you will be getting that here. Now, I'm not sure if, when, or ever this phone will be updated to Android 13, which is the current version of Android that's out. I have a feeling that it probably won't really be getting that update ever. So if you are someone that's really concerned about getting the latest and greatest versions of Android on your device, then you might want to consider going for something else. And then another awesome feature with this phone is that it does have NFC. So if you do like to use tap and pay to make mobile contactless payments, then you can do that here with this phone using services such as Google Pay. So I'm really glad that's here, as I do tend to use NFC quite a bit with any device that I have that does support it. But now that I've talked quite a bit about the specifications and features of this phone, let's talk a bit more about the hardware. Now I already talked quite a bit about the display here. Overall it's really nice. I like that it's a very large display at 7 inches. However, just keep in mind that it's not necessarily that bright of a display. But in pretty much every other way beyond that, it's really good. Now this phone does have kind of a boxier form factor, which I do appreciate. I think it looks really nice and does look a lot more expensive than it is. But on the left side of the phone, we have the slot for the micro SD card and SIM card. Then on the right side, we have volume up and volume down. Also the power button, which doubles as the fingerprint sensor. Then up top here, we have the noise canceling microphone. And then on the bottom of the device, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the speaker. And then on the back of the phone, We have Celero 5G Plus branding, we have the camera module, and that's pretty much it. Now I'm a big fan of this material on the back of the phone. I like how it's a frosted finish, and overall just looks really nice. I also appreciate that this phone doesn't really pick up any fingerprints either. But overall, I'm really excited about the Boost Mobile Celero 5G Plus. I'm really curious to know what you think about this device, and I hope you're excited for future videos on this channel about this phone. But I think this phone will continue to be very popular over at Boost Mobile all throughout this year, and I'm really excited to continue testing out this device. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up. And with all that said, I will see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.